met her in the fall. He took her to a movie, and when they done it all, he took her.
Hello and welcome to the Fabulous Picture Show. I'm Amanda Palmer. This week at the Everyman Cinema Club, we have Ryan Fleck and Anna Bowden, the filmmakers for the award-winning Half Nelson. It's about an inspirational school teacher who breaks all the rules, mainly because he's a drug addict. Dead Poet Society? This is not.
You guys hate coming to school, right? Yes. Holla back if you heard me.
We go to Brooklyn for some life lessons with Half Nelson.
I bet you're too dumb to even cross the road.
We also head to New Zealand to hang out with the unruly kids of Brotown.
Oh, that's not a good idea!
And this is what happened in Bamiyan, Afghanistan, when the cinema came to town. But first, Amazing Grace, the hymn which has inspired two recent films about Britain's slave trade, which was banned 200 years ago. One looks at the political struggle to have it abolished, the other looks at the personal struggles of those who tried to survive it.
I once was blind, but now I see.
Amazing Grace tells the story of impassioned young politician William Wilberforce, played by Welsh actor Ioan Gruffudd.
Wilberforce is a rebel.
No matter how loud you shout, you will not drown out the voice of the people!
People!
He fought in Parliament against ignorance, greed and prejudice to ban the slave trade in the British Empire.
We have no evidence that the Africans themselves have any objection to the trade.
It was a campaign that took almost 20 years.
I have to say, I was so interested to read that he was 5'4".
They describe him as a shrimp of a character that grew into a whale when he was orating.
This is a slave ship. It has just returned from the Indies, where it delivered 200 men to Jamaica. When it left Africa, there were 600 on board.
He wasn't the character who woke up one morning and said, oh my goodness, let's deal with slavery. You know, he had to be persuaded into it, which is really, I suppose, the cornerstone of my take on the whole thing.
Do it. Take them on. Row their dirty, filthy ships out of the water.
Apted wanted to make a film about the power of politics to bring about change.
10,000 more young lives wasted for no reason.
But he's been criticised for not showing the misery slavery caused.
We hear that you are a man who doesn't believe what he hears until he sees it with his own eyes.
Senegalese singer Youssou N'Dour plays the free black slave and campaigner Oluda Equiano, the only black part in the film.
To let you know that you no longer belong to God, but to a man. Equiano represents all the Africans. He brings the message and say, yeah, this is true, this is terrible, you have to stop this thing.
The Nigerians have brought out their own version of Amazing Grace, actually.
With my
have
friend,
you heard about this?
Yes, I have. I think my friend is in it, I think.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's not playing Mr. Newton, is he?
Nick Moran, yes.
British actor Nick Moran stars in and co-wrote The Amazing Grace, Nigeria's take on the slave trade.
Stand down, sir, or by God you shall take his place.
Whilst both films were in production, Nigerian director Jetta Amata met Ioan Gruffudd in Los Angeles.
He found out that I had done my Amazing Grace also. So it was like a coincidence. I showed him my photographs, he showed me his. While I was looking through the photographs, I noticed one thing. I was looking for the slaves or the black guys. I'm like, where are the black people? And it was like, uh-oh, there are no black guys.
Amata's film, now a huge hit in Nigeria, reverses the balance. For his film, Amata recreated slave pits here in Calabar, once a major slave trading post.
They used to keep slaves they thought was stubborn in places like this, to like break their spirits, to be able to make them do whatever they want them to do.
The Amazing Grace looks at the story of John Newton,
Sail off to reef the topsail!
the captain of a slave ship who had an epiphany during a storm. After being rescued by his slaves, he found Christianity and then turned their chants into the redemptive hymn now sung around the world.
The blacks expressed themselves through songs, through music. And The Amazing Grace was like a chant they used to sing, like to express themselves and ask God why are they being treated this way, what's happening.
But our martyr is still unforgiving of John Newton.
Now, one would expect that now you're born again, you would stop this business. He didn't stop the business. He carried on with the business. But with a clause, he treated the slaves better. That's man.
At this year's African Academy Awards, The Amazing Grace won Best Cinematography. And I asked Michael Apted if he'd like to see the film.
Absolutely, I would.
I've respected Michael Apted all my life.
I would. I mean, you know, I think that's a crucial part of the story.
I'm wondering if somebody would tell him, do you know there's another Amazing Grace by Chetamada?
Now to central Afghanistan, where TV and cinema were just some of the many things banned until the end of Taliban rule in 2001. Now, 5 years later, the town of Bamiyan has held their first ever film premiere with a documentary that tells their own dramatic story.
The small town of Bamiyan in central Afghanistan has no running water, no electricity, and certainly no cinemas.
Okay, what is this man on the motorcycle saying with the megaphone?
Attention, attention. Tomorrow there's a movie about the Bamiyan Buddhas.
Swiss filmmaker Christian Fry is hosting a local premiere for the documentary he made here. The giant Buddhas lament the loss of one of the world's greatest cultural landmarks. As part of the Taliban's 2001 crackdown on all un-Islamic imagery, they threatened to destroy Bamiyan's Buddhas, which, carved out of the cliff face, had stood here since the 6th century.
The world's largest standing Buddha is under threat.
They do carry through this lamentable decision.
It is barbary.
Soldiers said to be preparing explosives to blow up the massive carved figure.
What do you expect from a country or a government when you fire at them, when you criticize them, when you isolate them, when you sanction them?
For 700 years before the country's conversion to Islam, this area was an important Buddhist religious centre. Monks lived in caves alongside the Bamiyan cliffs, and Saeed's family's been here for 70 years.
با انفجار بوتا مغارا مثل مثلا یک چیز زلزله و همینطور تکان می‌خوردن، خاک می‌آمدن، سنگ می‌آمدن، فقط اینطور یک گرد بودن که بسته مغارا رو گرد گرفتن.
In front of the caves, final preparations are underway for Bamiyan's first ever film premiere.
Nicht zuvor ist in Bamiyan ein Film gezeigt.
Never before has a film been shown in Bamiyan, so it presents a major technical challenge. We just hope the video projector arrives in time.
Oblivious to the missing projector, the crowd can barely contain their excitement.
No, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea.
At last, the projector arrives.
Careful. This is it.
Along with 2,000 people. For most of them, this will be the first time they've seen the destruction of the Buddhas. Christian hadn't planned for the turnout or the sandstorm, and the technical issues are getting him down.
It's not working, I don't believe it. Carefully. Something is not good with the electricity.
As dusk falls, the premiere finally gets started.
The part of the film that made me sad was they actually destroyed the Buddha.
We're not saying that we want to live in the past, but we want to see our history and our civilization live again.
It attracts people's attention to this part of the world, so maybe the situation of the people of Bamiyan will become better.
As the people of Afghanistan struggle to rebuild their country, there are hopes that the Buddhas will return. This French archaeologist is searching for the so-called sleeping Buddha in the valley, while the UN plans to put all the pieces of the Buddhas back together again.
Is it possible?
Yeah, really. My God, we can fly to the moon. Of course, this must be possible.
He took her to a movie.
300 300 is the comic book adaptation of the Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 Spartan soldiers allegedly held off a huge army of Persians in 480 BC.
This is where we hold them!
But films about bloody battles often pose problems for nervous movie studios.
I mean, I was asked at one point, is there any way we could not call them Persians? Could we call them, you know, could we make up a name?
But they might have had a point. The film's portrayal of Persians has sparked outrage in Iran, where pride in the former Persian Empire cuts across political lines.
Some foreign elements are trying to degrade the Iranian image.
You must be Xerxes.
But while some Western reviewers noted political overtones in the Persia versus Greece clash,
The world will know that free men stood against a tyrant.
the director and studio say it's just a fantasy.
Hell of a good start.
In part two, we head to Brooklyn, New York with Half Nelson, made by these two. Now, Half Nelson isn't a character, it's a metaphor for your film.
Yes, it's used as a metaphor in the film. It's actually the name of a wrestling move.
Yeah. It's
Like-
it goes something like this.
Yeah, that looks
She
fun.
can struggle to get out. She may get out. She may not get out. She got out. I let her out.
Wonderful metaphor, huh? Well, there's the struggle. That's in part two. You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
He met her in the fall.